1/3 blocks, a 160% increase in price, over 1.25 million new Satoshi millionaires, ETFs, JPEGs, inscriptions, and even convictions. It's been a hell of a 2023 for BTC. Today we're going to be doing a roundup on the 2023, the year we've just had in Bitcoin. And overall, like we see, it's not been too bad. Bitcoin up 162.71% as I film this, starting the year at about $16,500 and finishing, like we said, over $40,000 for absolutely massive gains. In a year that, to be honest, I don't think too many people were overly bullish on. I'm going to say that a lot of people may be expecting a little bit of a stagnant year of price action. And while that was the case for about 6 or 7 months, really, we did have a very, very strong end to the year, rallying from just about $26,000, $27,000 to, like we said, over $40,000. But overall, as a year, like we said, it's been somewhat eventful. There's been some big fundamental news events. There's been some drama. There's been, of course, some controversy. But as we can see right now, we're currently at a slightly greedy sentiment going into 2024. And looking back over the year, Bitcoin, compared to most other large traditional assets, has pretty much outperformed everything. We can see compared to Tesla, Apple, the S&P, the Dow Jones, Bitcoin has seen, like we said, 160% gains compared to everything else, which has performed fairly decently. Most traditional markets have also been up for the year, but absolutely nowhere near the performance we've seen in Bitcoin. If we just go down here, we can see once we actually last filmed our previous 2023 outlook a year ago, Bitcoin was sitting at around $15,000 to $16,000 at this bottom line here. And we can see since then, Bitcoin obviously bounced off and we've seen, like we said, a very positive 2023. That only leaves a few percentage of people currently at a loss on their Bitcoin positions, as 94% of Bitcoin's price history now would put you in profit if you were currently holding. So I think some of the most positive things about Bitcoin is the growth and adoption and accumulation we've had from a lot of retail buyers. We can see that the amount of wallets holding 0.01 BTC has grown by about 2 million new wallets this year. The amount holding 0.1 BTC has grown 400,000, and the amount holding a Bitcoin crossed the 1 million barrier, which is absolutely amazing for Bitcoin and the space. And especially if we go to the hash rate, we can see that the amount of investment that miners are putting into the space really shows a huge amount of long-term confidence going into the future. Just looking at the 2023 increase in hash rate, it has gone absolutely exponential and has well over doubled in just the space of a year. And we can see this just continues to climb exponentially. And like we said, looking back at our outlook for 2023, some of the major talking points when Bitcoin was around $16,000 was just trying to reclaim the 200 weekly moving average, which we have convincingly done now. It was actually a pretty major point of Bitcoin's price action for the past year. As we reclaimed it, dipped back beneath it, turned it into resistance, once again into support, and now we've rallied far above this 200 weekly moving average, and Bitcoin is in a very healthy position indeed. But another thing we also looked at is the 1 year hodl wave. And I'll admit, I was predicting during 2023, we'd actually see this top out and begin to maybe start decreasing, which usually is the indication that Bitcoin's price action has bottomed, which we were anticipating at that $15,000, $16,000 level. And we then anticipated, like we said, this to start decreasing to really indicate that the bottom had been set in Bitcoin's price action. And we were maybe going to start going into the transitionary year that we forecasted before, the early stages of a bull cycle. But even now, a year later, this has continued to increase. I definitely didn't expect this. Even with Bitcoin increasing over 160%, the 1 year hodl wave has gone from around 66, 67% to well over 70%, which just shows the conviction of holders in the space. Not only are we seeing a huge amount of accumulation from retail and potentially institutional buyers, but no one is willing to sell. There's too much opportunity cost for the future of BTC. And with so much anticipation of considerably higher prices going forward, it does seem kind of silly to be taking profit already this early in the cycle. If we look at something like the Bitcoin cycle master chart here, we can see that even though Bitcoin has increased pretty exponentially, especially in the last few months, we are sitting at what would be considered Bitcoin's fair valuation of around $44,000. So really, this isn't anything too surprising. I'll admit I was imagining a little bit more of a transitionary year without as much rapid gains to the upside, maybe just 100%. I wasn't wanting to be too greedy with 160, but we can see this really shouldn't be much of a surprise to anyone, especially if we look to the previous cycle. The amount of time it took Bitcoin to go from this bottom undervalued level to this fair value was only about half the time it took this cycle. So really, Bitcoin, even though we've seen big gains to the upside, it shouldn't be too surprising to anyone. And really, this isn't anything that suggests we're very much overextended to the upside. We may see a retracement in the coming weeks and months, but Bitcoin throughout all its cycles has seen double-digit retracements. So that shouldn't be anything that really dampens our bullish sentiment going forward. And especially if we look at something like the global M2 money supply, which over the past year, we can see found a bottom and started increasing pretty much alongside Bitcoin's price bottom and increase too, as Bitcoin bottomed out in price at around $15,000, $16,000 in late November, December 2022. It was pretty much exactly when the global M2 supply also bottomed out. So we can see this increase in global liquidity throughout 2023 has maybe in part driven this bullish price action we've seen in Bitcoin, especially like we could see during the boring kind of 6 or 7 period we had from around March time to pretty much September, October time. Global M2 was pretty much stagnant, even decreasing slightly, but especially over the past few months as this set pretty much a local bottom and begun increasing once again, it was parallel in Bitcoin's price action, rallying pretty substantially, like we said, from around $26,000, $27,000 to well over $40,000. And you can go to pretty much any chart we have on the site to really see that Bitcoin, compared to previous cycles, compared to where we'd anticipate Bitcoin to be, is in a very healthy position. We're not too far into the cycle. We still have probably 1, hopefully maybe even 2 years left of upside price action. And really, this is just a very natural path for Bitcoin to take. If we look at something like the MVRV score, which takes into account the realized price or the average cost basis of all BTC, we can still see we're very early in this cycle. And in every previous cycle, we maybe have had a little bit of an early bull market rally before a bit of a retracement. So we could see something like that in the coming weeks, like we said. But overall, there is so much upside potential still yet available to us, especially with what we're anticipating to come in 2024, which we'll cover in the next video. But ultimately, I think 2023 has been a great year for Bitcoin, probably exceeding expectations. But really, we can't say that this is taking away from potentially the bullish price action we'll see in 2024. If anything, this is just setting us up with an even stronger foundation for more bullish price action. Also, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to ensure you're receiving all of our content as soon as it's released. And make sure to check out all the resources we've discussed today, as well as the many more that are all available on lookintobitcoin.com, your %1 source for Bitcoin information. So just to summarize, 2023 has been a very positive year for Bitcoin, with price increasing over 160%. And from a macro perspective, things look incredibly healthy. Practically every macro and on-chain chart looks great, and with continuous adoption and accumulation from retail investors, along with vastly increased miner activity, the network and its security has never been in a better place. And with global liquidity increasing, it does point towards a traditional market turning point, which we've seen over the past few months, with many traditional assets in more traditional markets beginning to increase as global liquidity is beginning to start its uptrend. And alongside that, as the hodl waves are continuing to climb, even with massive price increases, even with big bullish fundamentals, it indicates that really no one is selling, and really we couldn't have asked for anything more throughout 2023. I hope you've had a great year alongside us. If you like this video, then please visit lookintobitcoin.com, where you can also consider becoming a site subscriber to get access to professional resolution charts, advanced macro and portfolio data tools, in-depth crypto industry reports, live and personalized indicator alerts, private trading view scripts, and more, all for a fraction of the standard industry price. And let me know what your thoughts are on the Bitcoin year we've just had in 2023, and what are your thoughts going forward into 2024. I look forward to reading and replying to all of your comments, both down below and on social media. Thank you all very much for watching. I look forward to catching up with you in a year's time to look back on how 2024 was for BTC. Have a great 2024, and I'll see you in the next one.